people think you can't do things after a certain age. Prove them wrong by just doing it. I ran an ultra marathon when I was 51. It was a challenge in my head, like, can I do this? A lot of people don't finish their ultra marathons. I mean, DNF is called did not finish. That's a status, and I feared getting that status. The training and the preparation and then doing it made me realize, like, you can take on things that you wouldn't necessarily think you could do, and you can do them. I have more mental resilience now than I did as a younger person. I stick with things longer. If you prepare and you sort of reach inside yourself, you can just keep growing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Cookery for our next set of recipes with you. I'm Chef Joe. Joined with me is Chef Amanda, our executive chef and owner, and we are going to be helping you out throughout the week.
Today and tomorrow and the next day, Joe, is all about wellness. What kind of diets and what kind of foods can we integrate into our everyday lifestyle that'll go on to make us feel better? Perhaps you have different goals for your New Year's resolution, whether it's to take better care of your heart or your gut or to lose a little bit of weight. We've got a diet that might work for you.
Absolutely.
So what diets are we going to tackle this week?
So today, for the first one, we are going to be doing the Keto Diet. For those of you that don't know, it is cutting out almost all carbs from your diet, replacing it with fat and protein. What are we doing day 2?
Day 2 is my absolute favorite diet, Superfood. So this is about kicking out all of the things that we don't want to be putting into our system and inviting in new foods that are very nutrient dense, meaning they're low in fat, low in carbs, high in nutrients, which means that we're going to feel better after eating them. And then day 3?
Day 3, we're going to do the Paleo Diet. The Paleo Diet's a pretty fun one. It's basically a whole food diet, living off the foods that ancient humans had available to them.
So that doesn't include things like gluten or donuts, right?
Nope. I wish it included donuts. I'm sure ancient humans, cavemen, wish it included donuts. We will feel better after we cut out the donuts, though.
Awesome. Well, day 1, I'm going to turn it over to Chef Joe here, and he's going to walk you through keto, what it means to eat keto, and then give you some awesome recipes. Get started. Go, Joe.
Let's do it. All right. Like Chef Amanda said, it is all about keto today for day 1. Keto, like we talked about briefly there at the beginning, it's cutting out a lot of carbs from your diet, replacing it with fat and protein. What that does is it puts your body in a state of ketosis. That's switching over from using carbohydrates as the body's main source of fuel to transferring and starting to burn off that stubborn fat that we all carry around, especially after the holidays, and we can start using that. That doesn't mean that we can't eat all those same foods that we love. So the recipes we have for you today, even though we can't have the carbs, we are still going to make a homemade pizza. We're going to use fathead dough, which is a pretty consistent dough throughout all keto recipes. We're going to turn that into a veggie and pepperoni pizza. The other recipes we're doing, we're going to do a spinach and artichoke dip. That's another kind of keto recipe already by itself, but we kind of make it a little healthier. We're going to use low-fat cream cheese, and we're going to use avocado mayonnaise instead of just regular mayonnaise. That, especially with keto, since you're increasing your intake of fat, it's important to eat the healthier fats for you, the avocado oil, the olive oil, this fresh fish oil, get out of salmon and other stuff like that.
I also think it's a common misconception with people that think that, oh, I'm on keto, so I can eat as much bacon and as much fat as I want. But that's not really the goal. There's numbers involved there that you're trying to hit. So it doesn't mean try to eat the most high-fat foods. You're just trying to accomplish a fat goal that's an actual number. So you're really going to get yourself in a little bit of trouble there if you just start inviting all of the most high-fat foods into your lifestyle.
Which is another good point. It's a really high-calorie diet. A lot of diets you're trying to eat with a little bit of a calorie deficit. So your portion size for keto might be a little bit smaller than you're used to when you first get started. You're still getting all the same amount of calories, the nutrients we need in the recipes. It'll just take a little bit for your body to get used to that diet.
I also think that if you're going to try and be on keto, the goal is ketosis and to put your body into ketosis. So it's not really a diet that you can be falling on, falling off, right, Joe?
No. So what she was talking about, ketosis, like we said earlier, that's just the state of your body switching and burning fat. As soon as you start putting too much carbohydrates back into your body, though, it switches right back to burning carbohydrates as fuel. get yourself out of ketosis, you have to start all over. So if you're doing the keto diet, this is one you want to stick to pretty strictly, just so you can keep your body in that ketosis, keep yourself feeling good, and still burn that fat as energy.
So just to break this down into layman's joke, correct me if I'm wrong. If you give your body carbs, it will always choose that because it's easier for your body to burn the carbs.
Yep, absolutely.
But if you don't create that as an option, then your body could go into ketosis, the goal of burning fat for energy instead of carbs. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's get into it, folks. We're going to start making our fathead dough for our pizza. So fathead dough for keto, it is mostly cheese, and we're going to add in some almond flour. We can't use regular flour just because it does have all those carbs in it. Almonds, the healthiest nut that you can get. They fit right in, even with our superfood day 2. But it's just finely ground almonds that's going to give it that binding agent that we're missing out of without the flour. The first step for it, we have a thing of mozzarella cheese. This is about 1.5 cups. Our other bit of cheese in your recipe from the 3.5 is going to go on top of our pizza. We have a little bit of cream cheese that we're adding in there just to smooth it out. And I'm putting that all into a microwave-safe bowl. We want to get this cheese started melting so we can mix it in with all of the other ingredients, our egg, our flour, our Italian seasoning. So I'm going to head over to our microwave, stick it in there for a minute, and then we're going to get right to it, mixing everything else. While I'm waiting for that to microwave, though, I'm going to go ahead and cut up my veggies for my pizza. So I have a bell pepper. I have an onion. We want to get these into bits so we can saute them. For my pepper, first step I do, cut right down the middle. After you cut it through the middle, you can pull the insides out, ready to use, and then clean up that little white rib section. Nothing bad with eating it. It just isn't quite as flavorful, so we peel it on out. And then I want to cut this into just bite-sized pieces. So I'm not trying to chew onto my pizza, and I have a big strip of pepper hanging out. So I'm going to cut these pieces in half. And then I'm going down and just cutting them into little strips. If you don't like peppers as much, maybe you want them into a smaller piece, so you don't taste them as much while you're eating your pizza, you could absolutely dice them. I love bell peppers, though, so I'm going to leave them a little more substantial so I can really bite into something. Chef Amanda's just pulling out her fathead dough after about 30 seconds, giving it a quick stir. That's always smart, so the bits at the bottom don't start to burn on you, just so it heats up nice and quickly. And that's about perfect.
That was a bit of
it. And so it just looks like it all came together. It's not super liquidy. It kind of is the consistency of a dough that you would imagine, though. But what we're looking for is not to see all the shreds of mozzarella, just looking for it to be one smooth product. We'll set our veggies to the side for now so we can keep on working with our dough. And then our other ingredients, we have 1 egg. We have 3/4 cup of almond flour. And we have some Italian seasoning. I'm going to mix my Italian seasoning in with my almond flour just so it gets all nice and mixed. And then it is all going to go into the same bowl with my melted cheese. And my egg is going right in there as well.
I have a question, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's say you can't have almonds. What are the substitutions we can go for?
Yeah, so you can do coconut flour if you want. The one thing with coconut flour is it'll give it that little bit of coconut flavor. Maybe you're a fan of pineapple on pizza, though, so you're fine with doing that.
Ooh, that'd be delicious.
Yeah. They also sell gluten-free flours. It still has the carbs in there. Your nut flours are really going to be what you want to use. Chickpea flour is another good option. It's high protein content.
And the coconut flour, I think, folks, is a little bit more dry. So you're going to use less in comparison if you substitute that in for almond flour. It's usually equal parts almond flour to AP flour if you're substituting out the almond flour, but it's 2/3 cup to a cup of almond flour or regular flour if you're substituting in coconut flour, because it really absorbs the liquids a lot faster and a lot more, so you need to use less of it.
All right, now I'm mixing this, and I'm mixing it pretty good with this wooden spoon. It takes a little bit of oomph to get this all together, and you'll tell that it still doesn't look super smooth. But when I get to about this point, I'm going to go through and just mix it together with my hands. Give it that last little bit so it gets all in there, mixed throughout.
Okay, so
almost.
It looks and feels like a real dough.
Yeah, it sure does. And I'm just going to do a little fake kneading in this bowl just so it all gets nice and smooth together. I'm not doing it on the counter just because I don't want it to stick all over my countertop, and I can't use the flour like you usually would when you're dusting it, just because it has those carbs. And that is about what we're looking for.
Yeah, because you're not really developing gluten strands here, right?
Not at all. All I'm looking for is so those little pockets of almond flour that I had left in my dough get evenly mixed throughout so I don't have any dry spots. And now we're ready to get it into its pizza crust shape. First, I'm going to wash my hands off all this fathead dough, and I'll be right back with you folks.
So what we really like to do around here is make multiple of these crusts at a time, pop one in your freezer, and then you have a pizza crust ready to go any day of the week, super fast, yank it out, pop it, throw it in the oven, and finish it off. And I love that these keto crusts are made with pretty common ingredients that are now easy to find. It used to be hard to find almond flour, but now you can get it at Aldi's or Kroger's or Walmart very simply.
You can buy a bunch of that at a time too and just throw it in your freezer. It's ready to go when you use it, and then you don't have to worry about going to shop for almond flour every time you want to make dough.
And that's a really good idea anyway when you're dealing with a super high-fat product that's very moist like almond flour. So we store ours in a freezer, and you don't even have to thaw it to be able to use it. It can be ready to go in 5 minutes.
All right, now to roll out the dough, I have 2 pieces of parchment paper. Like we were saying, it's pretty sticky because it's mostly cheese in there. I have a little bit of cooking spray. I'm going to do a quick spray just on the bottom where I'm going to set down my dough. And I'm setting the dough right in the middle. We are going to roll it out in between our 2 pieces of parchment so it gets to that pizza crust shape. And then we're going to bake it just on a sheet pan until it gets finished and nice and crispy. Before I start with my roller, I like just to use my hands a bit. Get it started, work it into that same circle shape that I like. When you're rolling out with the rolling pin, you're going to end with the shape you start with. So if you want it to be a nice circle, work it with your hands, get it in that circle shape. You also can make these in a rectangle shape for your sheet pan too. The shape of your crust doesn't matter all that much. It's not going to affect your cooking. The one thing you want to watch out for, though, is that it's the same thickness throughout your dough, just so one spot isn't getting overdone and burnt while the other parts are still underdone and chewy.
When we first found this recipe and started making it, because a lot of times we source our keto recipes from other sites so that we can have the nutritional values that go along with them, we baked the crust and found that it really didn't achieve a caramelized, crispy texture. So when we rewrote the recipe, we used some better techniques to get it kind of where you want it by actually flipping the crust in the process. So that's an important step you don't really want to skip. But using this almond flour makes this also a gluten-free crust, right, Joe?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And like we were talking about at the beginning there's not a whole lot of healthy foods you can think of that have gluten. So a common theme throughout our recipes this week is going to be gluten-free as well, just because in superfoods don't have gluten. Our keto day, no gluten because we can't have the carbohydrates. Our paleo, there's not any gluten in our paleo either because there wasn't wheat and flour. So, right?
You can take that to the oven for you, Joe.
So before you bake it, we're going to peel off that top layer. So it's sandwiched between. It isn't a perfect circle. I wanted to get more dough, so I kind of just rolled with the shape of the sheet pan that I'm working with. If you're baking it on a big pizza round, though, on a pizza pan, you can do that big circle and work for it really round. But then since we sprayed that top sheet pan, this will just pull right off.
Awesome. Check that out, guys.
And we are ready to go and bake.
Some delicious herbs in the crust there.
And we just use dried Italian herbs. If you're doing this over the summer and you have a great big herb garden in your backyard, do fresh herbs. You'll mix them in just the same exact way. You'll just need to use a little bit more to get that same flavor. For 10 minutes. So we're going to bake it at 10 minutes for that first time. Let it get nice and hot. Then we're going to flip it. Since the pan is already hot, that second flip doesn't take nearly as long to get that caramelized flavor. So our second bake is only going to be 4 minutes.
So let me ask you this, Joe.
Yeah.
What if I'm feeling deep dish? Can I do this like in a cast iron and just bake it longer?
Yep, absolutely. What I would do is I'd give your cast iron a good spray with your pan spray before you stick it in there, rub it with oil, something like that, just so it doesn't stick on you when you're trying to get it out. And then you'll just make sure that you have a big enough piece of dough that you can form all the way up your sides of the cast iron.
It might be a good idea to heat that cast iron first, then you'd get a really good caramely crust.
If you're doing a cast iron this big, though, you might want to do a double of your recipe. If you have a smaller one, you can stick with that one that we just gave you. But for a big cast iron for a deep dish, you're usually going to need extra crust.
We might have to try that later.
Now I'm going to go back and keep rocking out my vegetables so they're ready when I finish. Again, I'm just slicing my peppers into strips. If you want it to be diced, if you like it more spread out on your pizza, you're more than welcome to do that. It just wants to be the same consistent size throughout, so we're good when we start to saute. Now I'm going to do my onion. We love to do the onion trick here. I'm going to do slices of onion for the top. The beginning of the onion trick is always the same, though. So we have two sides. We have the stem side that's growing out of the ground and the roots that are growing into it. We always start cutting off the stem. Then we go through and cut right in half through the root. And I'll only need half of this for today. But now that we cut it, it's easy to peel off that first layer, get in there, and get all ready to use.
We've seen it a million times, Joe, but it never gets old.
No, it really doesn't. And I'm not dicing it today. I'm just going to slice it. So I can go ahead and go right on through. And I'm just looking for nice, thin strips of onion. And then we're going to get these sauteing so they're ready to go. So you can prep all of your pizza ingredients ahead of time. If you want to have like a pizza buffet for a bunch of friends, make all your doughs, prep all your toppings, you can do that in the morning and have it ready for dinner at night. So I have a wok over here on the stove. I'm heating it up to between medium-high heat. And I am adding a tablespoon of olive oil down into the pan. We're not looking to get these veggies super soft. We just want to add some flavor to it. So we're going to saute pretty high just to get some color. I'm going to let my pan get nice and hot before I add it in there. And you should hear that sizzle when you add it in.
Because the more you cook your veggies, the more you cook out their nutritional values.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's all about getting those nutrients in here.
So what else would be good on this pizza? We're using turkey pepperoni.
Yep.
What else do we have? We
have peppers. We have onions. I always love mushrooms on my pizza. I'm a big fan of just roasted tomatoes going on the top of the pizza.
I love spinach.
Yep, spinach is another good one. And we're going right in. Hear that sizzle. And we can do onions and peppers at the same time. Oh, and she gave me some mushrooms. Look at that.
That's because I love mushrooms on my pizza.
Great minds think alike.
I'm going to be eating some, so...
Again, we're taking off mushrooms. Instead of just running them underwater, we get a wet paper towel and just brush them off. Mushrooms are sponges. If you run them underwater, they're going to absorb all that water, and then it's just going to melt right out when we're sauteing our veggies. Stop it from getting that nice sear because of all that extra liquid. And now my mushrooms are going right on in there with that. A little bit of salt and pepper. All right, and while those are cooking down, let's talk about our next recipe that we're going to work together on. And that is going to be our keto pull-apart bread to eat our spinach and artichoke dip with. I don't know about you. I love eating spinach and artichoke dip with just a toasted piece of bread. The keto diet, that's something we miss out on. We always want something carby, chewy to grab onto with a dip. That's where these keto pull-apart breads are perfect. Again, just toss my veggies. We're just looking for a little color.
Well, and I'm super pumped that these gluten-free and keto and paleo diets have come so far to actually produce good baked ingredients.
Oh,
because it was a struggle there for a while.
Absolutely. And that's one thing we hear a lot when people are keto or they're gluten-free is it's hard to find products that let you think you're still eating those carbs, where you still get that nice chew. But that's not the case anymore. You can buy pre-made flour mixes. You can buy pre-made fathead doughs if you just want to get a frozen dough from the store and top it with your own stuff. They have those for you.
You want to be careful about those products, though, because often they're amping up the sugar to make them taste a little better. Not necessarily in your keto pre-made items, but like in the gluten-free.
In your ketos, too, though. So with the keto diet, you can have some carbs. Depending on how strict it is, you're limiting yourself to about 25 grams of carbs per day. Some of those products might be thinking that's the only carbs you're eating. It's always a good choice when you're sticking to any of these special diets to look at the nutrition facts and just make sure that it's not going to get you out of ketosis by using one of those pre-made crusts.
Oh, good point.
All right, that's about where I want my veggies. I got a little bit of color. I haven't cooked out much of those nutrients, and they're still going to be nice and crunchy on the top of my pizza.
I love that.
I'm going to leave those in my wok, just sitting there waiting until we top our pizza. And now let's work on this fathead dough round 2.
All right.
So it's pretty much the same ingredients. The only differences here that you'll notice is with our almond flour, I'm going to add in some baking soda powder. Baking powder. This is just because it's going to be, instead of a thin pizza crust, we want it to get a little fluffier. We want to have that bread texture. We want it to rise a little bit in our pan.
No yeast in here then?
No yeast.
Okay.
Nope. Makes it easier on you guys. Don't have to worry about activating any of it. I'm just mixing my baking powder all in my almond flour. Kind of the same way that we did it with our pizza crust with the seasonings. I just want it all mixed throughout. I don't have a pocket of it in my dough.
And your room temp eggs, room temp cream cheese.
Yeah. It's like you saw with our pizza crust. It's a dense dough. If you have cold products in there, you're just going to be working it, and it's not going to want to come together for you. So pulling everything out a little bit before you start your recipe is a great tip there. Starts out the same way. We're going to take microwave safe bowl, add in our mozzarella, 2 ounces of cream cheese, and it's getting microwaved for 1 minute, just like we did with our fathead. And that's going to the side. My eggs, I'll go ahead and crack just into this bowl that I had open up. And give those a pre-whisk, just so I don't have to worry about getting my eggs all broken and mixed together in my dough. Saves me that little bit of extra work in the long run. Everything else we need for this recipe, I have a muffin tin right here. We are going to bake our keto pull-aparts in our muffin tin. We're going to have 3 little balls of dough in each of these, so when they bake, it looks like a 3-leaf clover on the inside.
So those traditional clover rolls from Thanksgiving.
But better because they're keto. Then we're going to take it, spray it with some butter spray, olive oil spray, any kind of nonstick cooking spray. If you don't, they're not going to want to come out of your muffin tin. Even if you have some of the really nice nonstick muffin tins, give it a spray. Hedge your bets. You won't regret it later. Sweet.
Yeah.
You also, if you just want to keep rocking out at your stove, you can melt this on a stove, just in a pan on your stove top. The one thing with that is it's really easy for the cheese to stick and burn to the bottom, and then you have that brown discoloration in your dough. But if you're watching it, do your slow heat and stir it around, stovetop will work fine for you. And our dough is coming together the exact same way our last one did. We are putting in our almond flour and our baking powder mix, and I'm dumping in my 2 whisked up eggs in there. Again, taking a wooden spoon and mixing it until it's consistent. Just like the last one, at the end here, I'm going to go in, use my hands. Just because it's hard to get it all mixed together smoothly with just your wooden spoon, especially when it's dense dough like this. All right. And just about here is where I'm going to spray my hands, start mixing it together with that. How's our timer on our pizza crust? Oh, nice. So we have our pizza crust is coming out of the first bake. So at this point, we're going to take it out, flip it around, peel off that last bit of parchment paper, and stick it in for those last 4 minutes until we get right where we want. But you'll see that top part has some beautiful color on it already. Look at that. It looks just like a pizza. This is magic. Peels it right off.
Oh my gosh. And you could eat that with just cheese on it and call it a day.
Could.
No, so good.
If you have hummus in your fridge just from the store, you can cut that into triangles, toast it off a little bit again, and use that for dip. But like I said, I'm going in. I'm going to spray my hand just a little bit so it doesn't stick everywhere on me. And just mixing it together until it's nice and consistent.
So if you can make a fat bomb pizza crust, you can make pretty much anything bread related.
Yep.
A lot of these recipes start with a cheese melty base.
And you'll notice these are the exact same ingredients as our pizza crust. It's a little bit more almond flour. It's more eggs. So that's going to be a leavener in there too, just like our baking powder. It's going to give it some elevation when it bakes, make it seem fluffy like bread. So more eggs, a little more almond flour, and some baking powder. Only differences. All right, and here is our ball of our clover. Now we're ready to form it into our smaller ball. So I'm going to take some oil and spray the bottom of my counter. That's just so it doesn't stick everywhere. Clean it up afterwards.
We'll wipe that down later.
Yeah.
We'll hose that down later.
And now we're going to cut it just into quarters. It's going to be doughy. They're not going to be super want to come apart. And now each of these, we're going to take apart into 6 or so.
I sprayed my hands the other day when I made those. It worked really good.
You want to hit me up?
Sure.
Perfect. And you're just going to roll them together, and they're going to come out. It's that spray that really helps you. After we get all these formed into our little balls here, we are going to roll them in Parmesan. That's just giving a little bit of extra flavor. It's going to caramelize for us in the bottom of our pan, and it's just that extra little bit of flavor.
Speaking my language, Joe.
Flavor is our language. Don't be afraid to re-up yourself with spray. Your spray bottle will get dirty. Just wipe it off when you're at the end.
And you could use a butter or an olive oil spray, coconut oil, anything works there.
And you can eat these by themselves. They're great if you just make some garlic butter on the side, have them be like garlic pull-apart breads. You don't have to use them as dip for your spinach artichoke dip, but they are a perfect vessel for any of those dips that you're making. If you're doing buffalo chicken dip, these would be awesome in there. You can do your buffalo chicken dip in a cast iron skillet. Take these and just set them around your cast iron and then bake it, and you'll have a little pull-apart buffalo chicken ring. Chef Amanda is pulling out our pizza crust here. Just finished up. And at this point, you can save it. You can put it in your freezer. If you do a bunch of these at once, you can just have different bags in your freezer ready to pull out and top and bake off for dinner.
Seriously smells so good.
It sure does. And it looks perfect.
And I mean, if you've cooked your toppings and you've cooked your shell, then really you just need to melt cheese at this stage, right?
Yep, absolutely. You can crank your oven up to boil even. Have dinner ready really fast. If everything's already cooked, we pre-cooked our toppings. Our crust is all the way done. Pepperoni is already fully cooked. Give my hands a quick wash. And we are ready to get these in some Parmesan and get them in the oven. So taking it, just a quick roll around and dropping them in our muffin.
My gosh, it is cheese upon cheese upon cheese is what you're telling.
This is not for the lactose intolerant. No.
You could even like just roll those into singles and stuff them with something in the center.
Oh yeah, yep. You could stuff them with spinach artichoke dip.
Oh my goodness.
All you would do is just like we did with our fathead dough. You take your rolling pin, roll them out until they're just a small circle, put a dollop of spinach artichoke dip in the center, and pull the dough up around it. I would still bake it in a muffin tin, even if you're stuffing it, just to hedge your bets in case it starts to leak out. You still have a container with ketchup.
Well, and then it'll be like burnt cheese surrounding it, which should be, that's my favorite thing.
Yeah, cheese crust over anything.
Just.
Yeah. Which is kind of these whole bites are just burnt cheese.
Totally delicious.
All right.
You know, one of the great things about the keto diet is some of the things that we love to eat, like meat, you know, are fully acceptable as long as you follow those guidelines.
Absolutely.
With the paleo diet, I always knew that wasn't going to be for me because I am kind of like a cheese junkie. You know, I got to have just tons of cheese, tons of dairy. So
And we'll talk about it when we get there tomorrow, but that's part of one of the things that's great about our superfood day. Is a superfood diet isn't making you exclude any one type of food. So you don't have to stop yourself eating some of your favorites. It's just choosing the better option of each of those choices.
And I mean, a lot of medical professionals don't really love the paleo or the keto diet because it does cut out some of your basic food group items like whole grains.
Yeah. The keto diet is also pretty hard to sustain for a lot of people. It's hard to keep your body running on the fat like that. There's also the keto flu is real. If you are committed to sticking with keto, there'll be a few days where you just feel kind of groggy. And that's your body switching over from burning carbs as fuel to burning fat as fuel. It lasts a few days. If you're committed to sticking to keto, just push through it, though. It will pass in a couple days. Chef Amanda is going to take those pull-aparts. They are going into a 350-degree oven for, I believe, 20 minutes. After that 20-minute mark, we'll pull them out. You do want to let them rest just a little bit before you pull them out of the muffin tin. That's going to help them release from the sides easier. And now we just have that one recipe left to do today, and it is one of my personal favorites. It is our spinach and artichoke dip. It's already pretty keto, so we can stick to pretty regular things. Let's talk about the ingredients we have. Artichoke hearts and spinach, obviously. Both of these are superfoods. Both of them are extremely healthy for you. Tons of nutrients, fiber, iron packed into both. Also have some Parmesan cheese, some mozzarella cheese, salt, red pepper for just a little bit of a kick. Avocado oil mayonnaise, like I said, just because avocado oil is going to be a healthier fat than you're going to get out of a regular mayonnaise. Low-fat cream cheese. Low-fat cream cheese tastes extremely similar to regular cream cheese. They have it at every grocery store. It's a great way to cut out some of those calories and fat, especially in a diet that already has tons of them.
Well, and if you ate all three of these items on the same night, you definitely would achieve your carb amount and probably your fat amount and then some for this meal.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And your artichokes, they're from jar, can?
You can buy either. So they're both going to do good. You want to make sure you're buying the hearts. My favorite for spinach and artichoke dip is to buy the can of marinated. You do want to check the nutrition facts for those, though. Sometimes, depending on what they're marinated in, depending on the brand, you could have some carbs and sugar in there that you want to watch out for your keto diet. But there are tons of extra flavor when you buy them marinated. If you don't, it still works the same way. It's still going to taste great.
But you don't really need to go to the extreme of cleaning your own artichokes.
Oh, no, absolutely not. It make it way too expensive when you're doing it, too. Canned or jarred are going to be the way to go. All right. Also in there with my cream cheese is going my mayonnaise.
You can't find an avocado mayo, you could use an olive oil mayo.
Olive oil ones are much more common, going to be easier for you to find. Olive oil and avocado oil, both super healthy. They're both going to be great choices. My salt and my red pepper is going in with it. My mozzarella is going in with it. My Parmesan's going in with it. And then I'm going to mix it up. You can use a wooden spoon if you'd like. We're going to make our lives even easier and use a hand mixer just to speed it up for us.
So then that's important that cream cheese is room temp.
Oh yeah. Yep. So if you don't have smooth cream cheese, if it's cold when you start it, it's going to be lumpy when we go in and mix it. And you'll see when I mix it that it's going to be pretty smooth. Come over here.
So you're using a frozen spinach, Joe, but we could do a fresh and cook it first, right?
Yeah, yep. If you're going to do fresh, you will want to cook it a little bit so it mixes in right. You could blanch it. That's just boiling it in some water and sticking it in some ice water to cool it out. You could also just saute it in a pan. You'll notice it'll start looking just like your frozen spinach. Darker in color, it'll wilt a little bit, and it'll start clinging together. And then you'll just run your knife through it a bit.
Now that frozen spinach, we squeezed all of the liquid out of it, correct?
Yes. If you're using frozen, it's going to have tons. You can just squeeze it with your hands. If you have a really thin kitchen towel, have some cheesecloth, you can squeeze it out of either of those, make it easier for you. We just don't want to add any extra liquid that we don't need into the artichoke.
Gotcha.
And I'm just mixing this until it's all together, all smooth. And then I'll show you. What we don't want to see are big blocks of just plain cream cheese. It is all smoothly added together. There's no just big plain white chunks. that you're just going to have no flavor in when you bite. So now we'll get all that cheese out of our attachments.
And definitely don't put your spinach in before you do that step, because you'll have it all stuck inside of your hand mixer.
It'll also turn your whole dip pretty green. As soon as you start working that spinach too much, it loses a little bit of that extra liquid and a lot of its color.
Same thing will happen, folks, if you bake raw spinach into your artichoke dip. You'll end up having a very off green, minty kind of colored dip.
Oh, yeah.
Not horrible, but probably not quite as appetizing as just seeing the whole spinach leaves in there.
Maybe it's Christmas next year and you want it to be a little green for the festivities.
Add some red pepper and call it a day.
Giving my knife a quick rinse off on my fat end dough. And I like to run my knife through the spinach. It is since it was frozen, it's already broken apart pretty good, but it just helps break it down that one little bit more. And I do the same thing with my artichoke hearts. They're already quartered, but that's still a lot of artichoke to have in one bite. So we just want to break it down a bit. Again, I'm running my knife through it. I'm not paying real close attention. They're all the same direction or anything. I just want them broken down a little, and I'm running it through both ways. All right. Those are both going right into my bowl now. And now we're going to paste some garlic, which is a really fun trick. It starts with just mincing garlic. What you'd use pasted garlic for. It's great for spinach artichoke dip. It gets the flavors all mixed through whatever you're making a lot better than just minced garlic does. And it stops you from ever biting into that one chunk of garlic and just getting a real aggressive garlic spice flavor in your mouth.
That's the first.
The other thing it's the best for is for salad dressing. If you're making a vinaigrette and want that garlic flavor in there, especially since it's not going to get cooked, it's just going to be that raw garlic. Tasting it really mellows out that flavor. So we're breaking it down into a mince first, running my knife through both directions, just breaking it down into a smaller piece. Now I'm rocking my mince motion, hand on top of my knife, fingers splayed out, kicking the heel back and forth with the tip down, just until it's broken down to almost a mince. And I stop a little bit short of my mince when I'm pasting it, just because I'm going to do a little bit more knife work after I add in some kosher salt. What the kosher salt is doing is it's starting to bring out some of those natural oils, the natural liquid out of the garlic. It softens it up, and it lets us push it down into that paste. Kosher salt or coarse sea salt are going to be the best. Those big grains of salt help push down into the garlic. So I'm going through and running my knife in again with the salt, just to start pushing the salt into the garlic, start bringing out all that oil, that water, and now I'm ready to paste it. So you're going to take your knife, and you're pushing down with the end of your knife and just rubbing it into your board repeatedly until it starts to soften and turn into a paste. And what I want to be able to do is spread this garlic out and see my cutting board from between the bit of garlic paste. You should be able to spread it so thin you can't even really tell you have garlic paste there. And that's about what I'm looking for. Scrape that up off your board. And that's our garlic paste. You can't really tell it was ever once a full piece of garlic. It's all one straight pasty.
Yes.
Perfect. And that is going right into our bowl as well. The one thing to keep in mind is I'm not going to add salt into this now. I added salt into my garlic paste, which is going into my spinach artichoke dip. Whatever salt goes into the paste is going into your dish. So hold back on the salt a little bit, at least until you get it to taste. And now we're just giving it another good stir, just to get everything mixed together. Beautiful. And unlike a lot of spinach artichoke dips, you're going to get at restaurants where it looks like it's very obviously mostly cream cheese. This is a lot. It's pretty packed. A lot of spinach, a lot of artichoke, which is what you're getting the health out of. Tons of fiber. It's not just about the cheese. Now we're going to bake it. So I have just a small ramekin. If you have a 9x9 pan, want to bake it in there, 9x13, a cast iron, any of that is going to do great for you. Little ramekins are fun if you're having a dinner party and want to give everybody their own individual spinach artichoke dip. Filling that up.
You're having a COVID-friendly party.
No one has to share.
Yep.
And just give them one of your Clover keto pull-apart breads on the side.
There you go. Doesn't get much cuter than that.
No, it does not. So I have my ramekin. I'm putting a little bit of mozzarella cheese right on the top. A little bit of Parmesan, because Parmesan is never a bad idea. And this is going to go in the oven until it's nice and melty. I'm going to stick it in our 350-degree oven with a small ramekin. It's going to be in there for 10 or 15 minutes or so until it's nice and melty. We'll keep checking it, and we'll keep it. And now we're ready for the piece de resistance. I've been waiting all day for this one. We're going to top our pizza and bake that. So we have our sheet pan. We have our delicious fathead pizza dough. The caramelization on this guy is unreal. That is a perfect looking crust. And like we were saying, do a bunch of these at once. Do a bunch of that time a recipe, and then you can freeze them, layer them with just parchment paper, stick them in the freezer, stick them in a Ziploc bag, and they're ready whenever you need them. But here we have some of our house-made Cookery marinara sauce right in the middle. Spread it around. I like to get most of the way out to the crust. I'm going to leave a little bit of a crust ring just because we're going to brush it with some olive oil and a little bit of Parmesan and season our crust up before we bake it too. So spread my sauce. Do a little dusting of cheese. And you can do your favorite cheeses on this too. You can make it into a taco pizza real easy as well. Some ground beef, some taco cheeses. Make a little guacamole on the side. We are doing tortilla chips later in the week too that you can make for this. And now we're taking our veggies right on top of the cheese. Veggies are the main part that we're getting all those nutrients out of today. So I'm loading this up with our veggies. Can't go wrong with it.
I would much rather have veggies on my pizza than meat. I'm one of those people.
Most of the time, I would agree with you. I get in the mood for a meat lover's pizza every once in a while, though. It's just kind of the
in my
nature of the
house,
beast.
everybody likes something different, so we all got to get our own pizza.
Oh, darn.
It's ridiculous.
And then on top of the veggies, I'm going to do another little dusting of cheese. And then I'm going to put my pepperoni right on the top. When I do pepperoni on a pizza, I like to put it on top of the cheese just so the heat from the oven starts to brown our pepperoni. We get some coloration on that one too.
Oh, I love it crispy on top like that.
Best way that it comes. And this is turkey pepperoni, like we said, so it's healthier for you. Pepperoni is pretty keto. You're not going to find a pepperoni that's not keto, so you can use your favorite. And you can load this up as much as you want. We're all about the veggies, so I'm going to do about half a package of pepperoni that we had. But if you want to load it up, feel free, load it up. And I'm going to go throw this in an oven just until it gets all nice and melty. And we're going to check on our pull-aparts and our dip. And then that's our recipes for today, folks. Let me wash my hands up, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So if you are committed to doing keto, let's talk about some things that you really want to watch out for. Because like we said, it is easy to fall out of ketosis once you get started. We want to keep carbs below 50 or 25 grams, depending on which one of the diets you're going to do. It'll depend on that. Some of the veggies, some of the superfoods that we're going to talk about later, even though it seems like they're really healthy, they do have a lot of just natural carbs in there. So it's going to be our starchier vegetables. Root vegetables are going to have a ton of carbs. Butternut squash, sweet potatoes, beets, carrots, they are all super healthy for you. They have great nutrients, but their carb and natural sugar content get pretty high for our keto diets. That doesn't mean you can't have any of them. You just want to pay closer attention when you are using one of those starchier products that you're keeping below your needed amount of carbohydrates for the day. Corn is another big one. Corn is going to have tons of natural sugar. Sugar is all carbohydrates. A lot of fruits you want to stay away from. Berries are the big one you have with your keto diet. So if you really love fruit, keep some blueberries, some blackberries, some strawberries and raspberries in your fridge. Grapes have a lot of natural sugar though. Grapes aren't necessarily going to be a great choice for your keto diet. Bananas and apples, just the same way. There's a lot of natural sugar and carbohydrates in there with it. So those are just a few things about the keto diet.
This is actually included in their package.
Oh, perfect. So let's go through all these on our list. We're going to get this, and you can look through it with me while we're going through. Meat is going to be keto. Kind of the whole point of the keto diet. Let's think about that a little bit further, though. So seafood compared to red meat compared to chicken. Shrimp is going to be the best protein that you can get calorie-wise by weight for how much protein you get out of it. There's not a lot of fat in that one, though. That's where, when we go seafood route, salmon is going to be a great choice for you. A lot of omega-3 fatty acids in salmon, really healthy for you. They also have a very high protein content per gram of meat that you're going to eat. Poultry is another good option. It's pretty low in fat. So in a diet where we're getting fat a lot of other places, we don't necessarily need to get that fat out of our protein source. Red meats, they are keto. Bacon is keto. But when you're having a ton of fat other places, like we keep talking about, I don't necessarily want to go to the fattiest cut of meat that I can get. A big fatty ribeye might not be the best option when I have to have fat head dough on the side for my piece of bread that I'm eating with it. So it's just making the healthiest option that you can while going around with the same diet. That being said, seafood is our next thing. That is a hard yes. Any seafood you want to eat is a fantastic choice for the keto diet. Dairy, that's another one that we can think of. You don't necessarily think about carbohydrates. You're thinking about getting a glass of milk. A lot of milk has 8 grams of sugar, though, in it per serving. So if you're having a few glasses of milk a day, right there, that got you pretty close to your carbohydrate limit for that day.
So what's some good milk substitutes that aren't cow-fed
absolutely
milk?
Your nut milks are going to be the great choice for your keto. Almond milks, cashew milks, pea milk is a great choice for that. Oat milk, it's a great milk substitute. It is not keto at all. You don't want to go the oat milk route with that. Even with your nut milks, you want to be careful because sugar can get put in those a lot. It doesn't taste super milky, so they cheat and add a little sugar just to fake that flavor. They do make unsweetened ones of all of them, though. They're great products. Check those out. Coconut is one. Depending on the brand of coconut milk you get, it could have a lot of natural sugars in it. There's coconut cream and thin coconut milk. Again, just check the label before you use a product. Make sure that your carbs aren't going to get too high or your sugars aren't getting too high from that. Vegetables, like we were talking about, the non-starchy ones are going to be good to eat. So that's your leafy greens. Leafy greens are a great choice when you're going keto. You want to stay away from potatoes, sweet potatoes, corn, anything starchy. If it's the root of a plant, that's a good sign that it has too much carbs in there for you. Fruit, like we talked about, you want to limit it. Any fruit in too much, you're going to get over your sugar. Raspberries, blackberries, blueberries still have that natural sugar in there. It's just a lower amount. So like we said, just look up how many carbs, I don't know off the top of my head, per serving of blackberries, but you do want to keep that in mind so you can track your carbohydrate intake. Natural, no-calorie sweeteners. That's going to be a big one you use in keto when you're doing baked goods. We had savory recipes today, so we didn't have to worry about it. But they have great products out there that you can use replacement sweeteners for to not have that sugar. Swerve is probably one of the better brands that you can think of because it's very easy to use. It's a one-to-one replacement of all of the sugars that you're going to use. They have granulated sugar, they have brown sugar, and they have powdered sugar. So you can do buttercream with it and do a keto buttercream frosting, which seems kind of impossible. But here they are. Again, keep them in your freezer. You're not going to use a lot of these, and you want them to stay fresh, so don't just stick them back in your cabinet. They're going to get way earlier than in your freezer. This is our granulated pack. This is our confectioners, and like I said, they also have a brown sugar. 1-to-1 ratio. They have monk fruit sweeteners. The careful thing you want to watch out for with monk fruit sweeteners, they do have some actual sugar in there that makes them un-keto. When you're better safe than sorry, check the label. If it is a keto product, one of those sweetener syrups, it will have a keto sticker on the very front. If it's keto, they want to sell you that it's keto. Oh, man.
Those are hot.
Look at these. It's okay. I don't have feeling in my fingers, so I'll do this. Look at those. And they pull apart. Oh, my. Beautiful. All right. I think most of it, Chef Amanda is going to pull the food out, which is awesome for us. Here comes our pizza. Nice. And like we said, you can keep this in there. If you like your pizza darker, keep it in there a little bit until the cheese gets more melty. This way, though, you're going to taste the veggies. It's going to be light and refreshing and beautiful. Last few things on this list, while we're pulling the last bit of our ingredients out, Grains. Grains are a no-no. Unfortunately, that's one of those things with the keto diet that you are missing out on. All the grains you're going to eat too high in the carbs, and as soon as you put carbs in your body's going to go back to burning those as the fuel source instead of burning your fats. Nuts and seeds, those are going to be one that is limited. They do have carbs in there depending on which ones you're eating. The almond flour is a great choice. Again, check your labels before you dive into your favorite snack there. Legumes, unfortunately, are no. Great healthy source of protein, but they have tons of carbs in all of your beans. Any kind you're going to get, including chickpeas, that's going to be one you want to avoid. Coffee in and of itself, it's good to use, have all the coffee that you want. But what you can't do is have those great coffee drinks that we all love where they're throwing in that extra cream, the extra sweeteners and the flavorings. That's something you want to watch out for. Like we said, add in your flavor, just maybe a dash of cinnamon into your black coffee. Add a little bit of the almond milk into your coffee, the unsweetened kind, and then you'll still be good to go. Alcohol, it's going to be not recommended for any of our diets, but we do understand that we like to have a drink to unwind from a long day. So it's going to be limited for our keto diet. The reason for that, a lot of alcohol during the natural fermentation process is there's a lot of sugar in there. So your whiskeys are going to have a lot of sugar. It's made from grains, too much carbs. Beers, you're going to want to stay away from. What you can have are unflavored liquors. So if you're doing vodka, it's going to be okay for you. Also, dry wines. The sweet wines, as you can probably predict, have too much sugar in there with them. Your drier wines, though, are going to be a better option for you. They have a less sugar content, and then you can still have that great glass of wine at the very end of the night. All right, I'm going to head over to the oven, pull out our spinach and artichoke dip, and we will get this great meal from day one all plated up.
How's that looking?
Delicious. That's just what we're wanting. Our cheese on the top is getting melty, slightly browned around our edges. Let me pull my towel back. Even better. There is our spinach artichoke dip, folks, with those keto clover pull-aparts. Perfect. And then we have coming right up. Gonna get that cut. But I think I should probably taste our spinach artichoke dip with one of these pull-aparts while we're waiting. I don't think there's anybody. Ooh, hot. That's tasty. And you still get that nice chew that you get normally out of your bread, out of those pull-aparts. And then we have our homemade pizza right there too. Perfect. Great color on the outside of the crust. That's really what I want out of pizza. When I get to the crust, I want a nice, crispy something to gnaw on.
Well done, Joe.
That's day one, folks. We love having you here. As always, we hope one of these diets is really going to fit well for you coming into the new year when we're all trying to eat healthy. Join us tomorrow. Chef Amanda has a great one planned for us. We have our Superfood Day tomorrow. Like she said, that is one of her favorite classes to teach, whether virtual or in person. So we have a great lesson for you there. One more time, just thank you all so much. It's been a blast, and we'll see you later on down the road.